Hi everyone, I'm Ariel Italic, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do my makeup. We're gonna go from this to this. I wasn't really sure what look to do, so I figured I'd go for the standard issue, no frills Ariel Italic. This is the basic, there's neutral colors, there's nothing fancy going on. It's my go-to. So we'll start there, and if I do future tutorials, it'll be the exact same thing in different colors. As you can see, I have not showered or shaved yet. I'm about to do that, and then we'll get into how I put this mug on.
I have showered and, most importantly, shaved very close. If you need tips on how to do that, I've got a whole video on it linked below. Also, go ahead and throw a wig cap on to keep the hair out of your face. So I put some rubbing alcohol on a paper towel that I first run through my eyebrows just to get rid of any oils that might interfere with the gluing down process. And then I take it over the rest of my face as well, because probably there's grease there too. It took me a while to get the hang of gluing my eyebrows down. I start by running the glue stick backwards through my eyebrows, just so I get the glue underneath the hairs. Then I run a metal comb through the brow to get everything going in the same direction. Then I kind of smooth it down with my fingers, just to make sure there's nothing poking through. It's gonna take a few rounds to get this right. A fan will help dry it off, but I also sometimes just stick my head right next to the air conditioner and let it blow on me. I don't use powder for the first round of glue stick, but I will start using it for future rounds, so keep an eye out for that. Next up is primer. Right now I'm using the Professional from Benefit, but anything from NYX will probably work just as well and be a lot cheaper. You just want to smooth it all over your face. I pay particular attention to my beard area because that is where I get the most texture because I grow a beard. I don't put this over my eyebrows because I still have a couple layers of glue to do. Basically, between each step, you want to be thinking about throwing more glue on those brows. If you think you have done enough gluing, do more just in case. Speaking of beard, color correcting. I use a NYX orange color corrector. I mix that with a foundation. I just don't think that a strong, heavy orange works with my skin tone. It's too much correction. Once that's all blended up, I guess we will throw some powder on round 2 of the glue on these brows. Right now, I'm using a L'Oreal True Match color powder. It really doesn't matter. Just something that will absorb the moisture, make sure that there's a little less color showing through. But a powder. Throw a powder on there. And now that I have mixed up my color correction, I apply it to a blending sponge and I press it into my whole beard area. And since I've got some luggage under my eyes, I like to go under there too and try to block out some of those dark circles. As you can see in this application, I was incredibly sloppy and I got some basically all the way down my cheek, but it's just makeup. You can wipe it off. I like to set down my color correction so that it doesn't move or blend into the foundation that I apply over it. I use Coty Airspun powder for setting because it is incredibly good and incredibly cheap. That little plastic tub is basically bottomless for like a few dollars. You cannot go wrong with this stuff. I don't know how anyone uses anything else, literally. I'll take this opportunity to do another round of glue, because really as many as possible. And then you're gonna knock the powder off with just a big old fluffy brush because it'll look shitty if you leave that powder on. I have spent basically my entire drag career trying to match my foundation to my skin tone, and I have never been fully successful, but I think I'm close with this. So the Makeup Forever Matte Velvet has more pink undertones, which really help because when makeup dries down, at least on my skin, it tends to get really yellow. This is the only brand that I've found that doesn't have that happen. On the other hand, I actually like the coverage from the L'Oreal Infallible more, even though it is by far the cheaper foundation. So right now I mix both. If I found a shade of Infallible that perfectly matched me, I'd probably ditch the Makeup Forever altogether. Just like with the color corrector, I apply this with a sponge. I bought this one at Sephora. The darker side is denser and I think applies more product to the skin, especially over the beard area. We want as much makeup as we can get on there. So I just press this into basically any part of me that is going to show. So if it's going to be a lower necked costume, for instance, I will go all the way down to my chest. For this video, I'm wearing something high-necked because we don't need to waste all that good foundation. I try to go as heavily as I can over my brows. Sometimes you can still see them through a little bit. It's less noticeable once you do the whole eye look. And if your brows show, well, then that just lets people know that you put in all the work of covering them, and they should appreciate that. For highlight, I use a Huda Beauty foundation. I will probably switch to something cheaper when this bottle runs out, but it's good for right now. I use the pink side of the sponge, which gives a slightly less heavy application since there's already makeup underneath it. And I put it right in the corner because I can then control the application a little more. What we're going for here is to have the brightest or lightest part of your face be in the center and have that gradually diffuse out. So in the corners of the eyes, the center of the forehead, right down the nose, that's going to be where it's most intense, and then you blend outward. And there might be layers to make sure that the highlight looks intense and still blended. So I will go back in and put more product on the center of my face. I will also flip the sponge back over, as you can see, so I can use the side that has my neutral tone on it and sort of blend through any place where there is too much highlight going too far down the cheek, or it just doesn't look like it's a smooth transition. So, you know, spend some time on this. It's your highlight and it makes you beautiful, and you want it to be correct. So we are going to start powdering now, but we're not going to do the whole thing just yet. So I go into my eye, which is where I get a lot of crinkling, and I take my sponge and pat until the coverage just looks as smooth as possible. Probably I make a stupid face while I do this so I can really smooth out any wrinkles. Then immediately go in with the translucent Coty powder and just press it the hell in so that you can lock in the makeup before it has a chance to settle into your wrinkles and make you look old. I do the same thing with my forehead. I think relaxing, unstressful thoughts. I pat until it is flat and free of wrinkles, and then I immediately slam the powder on there. But I don't powder the rest of the face yet, because first, I draw my lip line in. I like to pick a liner slightly darker than my lipstick, but not aggressively so. I want them to be vaguely in the same color family. Testing them on your hand makes sure that this is all correct. So sharpening that liner to get a clean line, I then overdraw my lips starting at the corner. I go outside and slightly above the outer corner of my lip to create a beautiful upward turn so I don't have a resting angry face, and then curve upward and draw in toward the center of my Cupid's bow. A rounded shape looks more traditionally beautiful, so I try to think round thoughts as I draw round lines. This is another thing that takes a while and will probably involve some back and forth, some repainting, yada yada. It's very difficult to get your lips even and looking like they're a vaguely human shape, and you would think that by now I would have gotten this down pat, but I just fuck it up every time. Once you think you've got the right shape, make some funny faces in the mirror. If you're going to be lip syncing or even just talking animatedly, you're going to want to see how the lips move, and if they look uneven or crazy when your mouth is moving, you need to know now. I settled on this lip shape, which is wildly uneven. I think I fix it later in this video. Let's hope. Now, take your pencil and sort of fill maybe halfway down or a little less than halfway down your lips. You want something for that lipstick to blend into. You don't just want a harsh line. We're not applying the lipstick now. We're just thinking ahead. And then, having done your lip line, you can powder the hell out of the rest of your face. I alternate between two colors of Coty. I have their translucent and also naturally neutral. I don't know that you can actually tell the difference, but I like to pretend that you can. Everything that I've highlighted, I do with the translucent, and then my neutral tone, I use the naturally neutral. They look the same in practice, but I guess it makes me feel like a real drag queen to do it that way. Basically, you're just gonna take a whole bunch of powder, slam it into your face, like really too much, and then just brush off the excess. Some people like to let their powder bake. They let it sit on their face and they take a break, have a snack, whatever. I haven't found that that helps me. I take the same round fluffy brush and just knock all the excess off pretty much immediately. Since the powder over the lip liner makes the color look a little dull, I then go back in with a sharpened liner and just redraw the line that I've already drawn. The fact that you powdered over the layer underneath actually helps it to stay in place, so it seems like a wasted step, but it's very helpful. Next, I go in with Sephora's Matte Perfection Powder Foundation, and I punch up my highlight with a little extra powder. I like this product because it also has some pink undertones, so I'm just going over the places that I already put my cream highlight. This is just to intensify that color. So, center of the face, center of the nose, forehead, chin, you know the drill. Getting a symmetrical nose contour is very difficult for me because I don't have a symmetrical nose. So, I start by dipping a small round brush in a powder highlighter, whichever one is your favorite will do. Tap the very center and pull up slightly. That gives you a guide to follow. Next, I take a flatter brush and I apply a color that I don't know what it's called. I got it from NYX. It's in one of those build-your-own palette things, so whatever it is, it's kind of a browny, purpley gray, just a shadow color, since we're creating shadows on the nose. And the shape of the contour is essentially a V. The top 2 points are the corner where your brow ridge meets your nose, and I just connect that down to the little highlighter dot that I made. Again, you're trying to get this as symmetrical as possible, but my face ain't symmetrical and yours probably isn't either. Do your best. And once I feel like those lines are in the right place, I clean any excess makeup off the brush, and then I just wiggle it back and forth to blend it. Whenever someone tells you blend, they just mean wiggle the brush back and forth. I try to blend the shadow about halfway down my nose, but not all the way down. You want the highlight from the cheek to creep inward on your nose a little bit. It creates the illusion that your nose is smaller and your cheeks are bigger. So contour is kind of my favorite part of the makeup process because I feel like this is when the big, drastic changes start to happen. I use a Can't Stop, Won't Stop powder from NYX and sort of a long, oval, fluffy brush, I don't know what to call it. I start with my cheeks. I put the darkest part of the contour below the cheekbone at the back of the face, and then kind of blend that in a rounded motion upward. Again, evenness is a challenge as you go in and try to do the same goddamn thing with the other cheek. It may or may not work. A thing that I do frequently is I take the round brush that I used to dust all the powder off initially, and I kind of blend with that wherever because it feels like it has sort of a neutral, not much going on. Whenever I need to get from a darker or lighter color back to my neutral face, I can just swipe that wherever. So here you can see me using that both above and below the cheekbone. Underneath, I use it to make a cleaner line. Above, I use it to blend more smoothly from the contour to the neutral shade. Moving on to the forehead, I color in the temples pretty dark and then blend downward, again using a rounded motion. Anything that isn't blended well here, I take that round brush, just sort of sweep it back and forth until it looks like everything's a little smoother. To make my jaw look more rounded, again, I start with the darkest part underneath my chin because that's where a shadow would naturally fall, and then gradually blend outward. Basically, you want to bring that color just slightly up higher onto your face than your natural jawline. I also like to round the back of my jaw a lot because that's the squarest part and I want it to look beautiful and delicate and small. Anything here that's not blended, again, you've got that big round brush, go ahead and use it. And then a little trick that I like to do is to take an even darker eyeshadow and hit just the very back lowest part of the contour. It creates a little extra depth and adds an extra pop to your cheek. With that all done, I go back to my lips. I'm using a liquid lip from Tarte. I try to get the lipstick as close to the lip liner as I can without going over, unless I'm going over intentionally to fix some of the mistakes that I made earlier in this video. But basically the idea is that you want to stay within the lines, but get as close as you can. It helps the two look blended together. And then I take my clown white and I dab just a little bit in the center, mostly of the bottom lip. It creates a fullness by highlighting the roundest part of your lip. Since this is a subtler look, I'm using a subtler blush. It's sort of a mauvey color from Tarte. I just take a big round blush brush, I start on the lowest part of the contour and gradually blend upward, so there's some color in the contour too, and you get a nice blend upward on the cheek. Then I'm going to take the same highlighter that I used on my nose. I'm going to hit just the highest part of my cheekbone with the same brush that I used for my other powder highlight. And now eyes. This is where I feel like the drag really comes alive. I'm actually going to use the same blush that I used on my cheeks as the lightest color in my eye, and I'm going to cover a lot of ground here. We're not really defining a crease yet so much as putting something for the crease to blend into, so I do put the darkest part where I think the crease is going to be, but I blend pretty far into the corner of my eye and pretty far outward. This is all going to be covered with darker colors later, so it's even-ish, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So now to add some definition to that huge swath of pink, I'm going to take a darker eyeshadow and a smaller brush and start defining the crease. I again start at the outer corner, that's always where the darkest part is going to be, and I blend in sort of an arc upward toward my eyebrow and then in toward the corner of my nose. It'll get lighter as it goes in because you're not applying more product, you're just taking the product from the corner and blending it inward. To make that blend smoother, you can flip the brush over back to the side that has the blush on it, and you can just wiggle it back and forth until those two colors transition smoothly. I also like to put some underneath my eye just to create a little extra drama. It's not intense. If you want to go bigger, it can be. And lastly, a flat brush with some black on it. I'm not very good at a winged liner, so having black in the outer corner that the eyeliner can disappear into is very helpful. And again, I blend this upward into the crease, outward a little bit. It should all be very diffuse and have no hard lines. I'm not good at hard lines because I'm not good at making things even. And I know I said I wasn't going to add too much drama under the eye, but a little black under there never hurt nobody. Then lastly, I'm going to take the same brush that I used for the tip of my nose with the same highlighter I used for the tip of my nose, and I'm just going to go to the inner corners of my eyes to brighten them up a little bit. So to make sure that there's a good place for that black eyeliner to disappear into, it needs to be dark. So I take a black powder that I have ruined by applying liquid to it, and I put a couple drops of Visine or saline solution or whatever in there, so it becomes a little more like a paste. It is more blendable than a liquid, but darker than the powder alone, and I put that on the outer corners of my eyelids and blend it out as best I can. We're nearing the end when we get to the two scariest parts of the makeup, the liquid liner and the brows. Liquid liner is tough because if you fuck it up, it can be really hard to correct because there's already this beautiful blending all over your eyes. I try to do a close, tight line that I can build on as opposed to just drawing the biggest shape possible right away. Often, as you see in this video, I fuck up one side, and so I have to go back and make the other bigger, so I end up with quite a thick black line when I really didn't intend for that. Whatever. Just drag the line into the paste of black that you already made. I only do the top lid, I don't line the bottom of my eyes, but if you want more drama, go right ahead. I don't really care which mascara I use because it doesn't matter what my actual lashes look like. I'm gonna put fake ones on top of them. This is just to make the lashes black so they blend in with the false ones. There's a lot of powder and other crap in my lashes right now, and we just wanna block all that out. I don't wear lower lashes, so it makes a little more difference below the eye, but the main thing is just make sure that all of the hairs growing out of your eyelids are black. And the scariest part, brows. For starters, know what hair color you're going to be wearing and try to coordinate the color of your brow accordingly. I'm wearing a black wig, so I'm gonna have a black brow. It's the same trick as before, where I take a powder, apply a little bit of saline solution, and voila, I have a paste. I use a thin brush, and I try my best. I wish that I had a trick to teach you on how to make your brows even. I struggle every time. I like to start on the inner corner where my actual eyebrow is, and then arch upward and outward. I draw the bottom line first, and then I pray when I get to the other side. This is another area where I just do a lot of back and forth to try to get these two lines at least vaguely even. And people will try to comfort you by being like, oh, brows are sisters, not twins. But like, I think mine saw each other on an elevator once and decided never to talk to each other again. And then once I have a lower line that I can at least vaguely live with, I take the same brush and the same paste, and I just flick upward to create the illusion of individual hairs. It can be hard to get the shape the same on both sides. This is another time where you're just gonna go back and forth and back and forth. Eventually, the brows take some sort of shape that is some sort of even, or not. And then lashes. I use a stack of 2 from NYX. I think it's the 21 and the 23. Maybe it's the 19 and the 23, or the 19 and the 21. The point is, one of them flares outward at the end, and that's the important part to me. It gives a dramatic upward lift. Also, when applying my lashes, the inner corner is on my lash line, but the outer corner is above it, again giving a lift, more of a cat-like look. It prevents that look of droopiness that I sometimes find I have achieved because I am old. And now, my whole face is finally done. And I have to go put on the rest of my drag because this is an hours-long process. Why do I do this?
So you pop on your wig and your jewelry and your outfit and you're good to go. I like to finish off with a little setting spray. Right now I'm into the Urban Decay All-Nighter, but use whatever works for you and just kinda... Oh, it's so nice. That'll last all day. I usually do that before I put all this on, but I forgot. I do sometimes like to add just a hint more blush before I head out of the house. Often that feels like it fades while I'm painting, and you want that kind of rougey glow without it being intense and overdone. Unless intense and overdone is what you're going for with the look, but it's more subtle this time around. So that's the Ariel Italic face. You can play along at home and see how you do. Hopefully you got it, you know, close to, maybe better than what I do. This isn't that exciting. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. See you soon. Mwah.